Hey, everybody, it's Nicole Bonner with Thriving in Chiropractic podcast. I'm here with Dr. Colton O'Brein. Hey, Colton.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And we're here today with a really special guest. I've actually never met you, Mike, before, but this is Dr. Mike Pezzone. And Mike, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi guys, nice to meet everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this podcast. So, a little bit of the basics behind me. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and I also do some consulting and some sales for X-ray imaging now. And my main goal is to help new doctors understand some of the basics on how to get X-ray set up in your practice, the costs associated with it, and just some more of the basics, because in school you don't really get you don't get exposed to more of the details regarding the actual X-ray for your clinic. You learn about how to take them, you learn about some of the basics, but you don't really delve too deep into more of the finer details. And that's kind of where I'm kind of bridging the gap between chiropractors and the X-ray companies. So I was out of school. I went to Palmer, Florida, graduated in 2018, and moved back home to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I worked in a prominent sports medicine clinic, multidisciplinary clinic that included 7 or 8 chiropractors, 2 physical therapists, nurse practitioners, and a medical doctor. We do a lot of imaging. We do a lot of regenerative medicine. We use class 4 laser, so I'm pretty knowledgeable on a lot of the cutting edge modalities and techniques. So I have a lot of background knowledge in that as well. And I recently transitioned to the X-ray sales. So that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Colton,
So,
do you want to kick us off with some questions? I have lots of questions. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so just me being a young doc and kind of looking into that route right after graduation, which, just to speed you up, Mike, I graduated in December, so I just opened my practice about 6 months ago.
awesome.
And I was looking into, like, what's going to be my objective measure. I mean, am I going to do X-rays? Am I going to do CLA? Like, how am I going to have some objectivity in my exams, and just kind of give me a roadmap for care? And I ended up starting a little smaller, and so I just went with CLA. Honestly, a lot of it was just kind of the not knowing, too much about what you're saying. Like, how do I get an X-ray? How would that kind of start that process? So can you just kind of start for the students or young docs out there, like, hey, I want an X-ray in my clinic, but I just don't know where to start, or what I should be looking at or what I should know.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of aspects that come along with, when you're trying to look at an X-ray, is it right for your practice? That's a big question. So a lot of newer docs, they may feel, I guess, uneasy about the big purchase. That's obviously a big factor as well. So one of the first questions I always like to talk to new students and new doctors is your clinic going to be based around the imaging? So a lot of times, if you are more of a diversified doctor, you may not always align with taking X-rays right off the bat, but a lot of doctors do. So that's a big kind of question mark, is X-ray right for your practice to start off with? And once you kind of answer that question for yourself, the next stage of the game is starting to look for X-ray companies and X-ray local distributors and things like that. And that can be daunting as well, because there's so many out there. So that's kind of a big challenge, I would say, for the younger docs out there, is just kind of feeling a little overwhelmed with the options and everything. So are you looking for digital? Are you looking for an older system, trying to buy used? So a lot of questions around the X-ray game. And that's where I kind of come in to kind of give my consulting and more of my expert opinions on stuff, and obviously help them out in any way possible.
Okay, cool. That's really good information. So just say I was coming to you and I'm just like, hey man, like I've done my, I've looked in how I want to practice, and I think X-ray is where I want to go. So what's kind of like my first steps, or what does that look like getting that installed? Maybe some financial aspects of it. How long should I be thinking that process is going to take before we have that all set up?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I do is anytime we get a prospective client or a new student that's interested in X-ray, we try to figure out what exactly they're looking for. Again, I kind of mentioned this before. Are they looking for a full system? Sometimes they purchase an office that has an older X-ray unit that they're looking to convert to digital. So there's options from that standpoint too. Once I kind of get a judgment of what their specific clinic needs are, then I can put together a customized quote for, an X-ray system. So that includes the X-ray, basically the X-ray unit itself, and then the DR panel if you're going digital, which most cases the students and most of the doctors are. So we put together a quote for them. In the quote, it lines out basically everything that they're getting, the DR panel. You also get acquisition software with that as well in most cases. So you get a computer, the acquisition software, and then the DR panel, and then the X-ray. So after, say you go and you say, okay, the quote looks good, we want to proceed with a, to start off with, then we can start to apply for financing. So this is where a lot of students kind of run into some issues. Is a financing issue because you're brand new docs, you don't have established credit, business credit anyways. And that's where myself and the company I work for, Maven Imaging, we have in-house financing that we're able to, get better rates and kind of be able to get the students a better chance of getting approved for financing. So we have ways around some of the harder red tape issues that go along with getting financing for big capital equipment. So after the financing part goes through, then my team, we get the room dimensions of your office, or the where you're going to be having your X-ray suite. We do a room draw. So with the room draw, it's kind of like a basic sketch, shows like where the X-ray is going to be, and then we send that to get a physicist report. So have you heard of a physicist report before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of it as
Every
well.
year.
And that though for people listening.
So for the new students, that's part of getting an X-ray. You have to get a physicist report to show that the X-ray is good, that the leading for the walls and everything like that is up to spec. So that's part of it as well as electrical. So different X-rays have different electrical requirements that you need to have for your room. So we basically put all that into a package together. We get it really streamlined and make it simple for, the contractors as well as the electricians if we need to have that happen. And then from there, typical, once you order and everything goes through, it's around 4 to 5 to 6 weeks for the ordering process. And then with my company, installations around like 1 or 2 days. So it's a pretty easy, we try to make it just as simple as possible for the clients and for the students and doctors, because that's one less thing that they have to worry about when it comes to setting up a clinic or building out a space.
And so is everything in-house with y'all? You said it takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So y'all have a crew that wherever it's being installed comes out and assembles and puts everything together, gets electrical figured out, all that.
So we give the electricians, like, I guess, like the electrical requirements for the room. So your contractor and your electrician, say if you're starting up a new clinic, we give that to them and they spec it out. And then once the room is ready to roll, then we'll bring our installation team, and we have nationwide installation. So we can have someone anywhere really come and install it. And like I said, that process is a day or two. And then I forgot to mention that we also incorporate training with that as well. So you get to get trained on the unit as well as the software. So.
Okay. And so students can kind of start. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Nicole.
No, go ahead, Colton. You keep going. Go ahead.
Just like, and then, this will be my last question for a second. And then, so just students can start getting their mind wrapped around like the financial aspect. Now I know it's different in each case, whether, you're updating an old unit or adding to or converting, or maybe it's a new unit right off the bat. Can you kind of give us some ballpark, maybe estimates that people can start thinking about so they can start planning it into their new practice?
Yeah, for sure. So let's start off with maybe like a retrofit. Say, they have an older unit that needs to get upgraded to a different panel. So typically I would say those range from 15,000 to maybe 20,000 for a typical DR panel. Again, there's a lot of different options on the market for those. And again, that gets you software and things like that too. For a complete X-ray system, a complete digital system, we're looking probably, I would say, like mid 30s to upper 40s. But there's also, you can spec those out, so the prices can get pretty pricey, depending on the generator you're looking for. If you're looking for a 30 kW or a 40 kW generator, so to be able to shoot larger patients. So in those ranges, that's something to consider. Obviously it's a big financial undertaking, but it's a good investment and it pays for itself in the long run.
Absolutely.
It does.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Mike, those numbers that you just kind of threw out to us, is that used, or is that a brand new machine?
Oh, those are so I was speaking of brand new machines.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, so
Gotcha.
brand new machines. Yeah, they are expensive. I think you can find used systems. I guess the only challenge with buying used is you don't know the condition it was prior. You always kind of run that risk sometimes. So not that that's saying it's a bad thing, especially if you're trying to get a deal. And I've been there before. You're trying to get the best prices and things like that. But it's like buying used. So.
Yeah, there's a reason why there's a cliche that says you get what you pay for.
It's very true. 100%.
Yeah.
That's with anything in life.
Yeah, that's with everything in life. Yeah, and just like from personal experience, because I've been in practice for 23 years and I do X-ray, I'm a CBP practitioner, and just
All
from
right.
personal experience, guys, like when Mike says your X-ray machine pays for itself, it literally pays for itself pretty dang quickly.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for that piece of equipment to pay for itself at all. Mike, can we talk a little bit about, so what I do is I help doctors, I walk doctors through the whole process of opening a clinic. So can we talk a little bit more about like the actual space and the electrical required, like the electricity that's required? I know it's probably different for every machine, I'm
Right.
guessing. It's been a
Um,
long time since I've done this for
yeah,
myself.
I can actually, let me see if I can find the specifics for because like I said, it's a little bit different for everyone, but let me see here. Yeah.
And can these guys like just hire an electrician to come out to wire up what they need, or does your company also do like that part of it as well?
So our company, we provide the specifics for the electricians, and pretty much any electrical, person can do that without any issues. Let me see here. I'm trying to find the specifics for the electrical here. Give me 1 second. But I'm actually working on my CBP training right now, actually.
Oh, are you going to the annual this weekend?
I am actually.
Me too. I'll meet you
Oh,
there.
heck yeah, that's great. So I'll get to meet you and I'll get to, go over more of the stuff that we were talking about before. Yeah, let me see here. 1 second.
While you're looking for that, I'll put a plug out to CBP. I love CBP. I've been
Yeah, it's
practicing it from day one.
from day one. Wow.
Mhm.
See, I didn't initially get into specifically the x-rays in the way of actually viewing every single patient before treating, but I've really become a big fan of x-ray. In the clinic I was working at, we did a lot of regenerative medicine, so a lot of times if we had a patient who did a regenerative procedure, we were able to look at the knee or look at the elbow or the shoulder or the spine, a couple months down the road to see how the procedures are working. So
Nice.
1 second.
So Colton, while Mike's looking that up, what are you seriously thinking about bringing X-ray into your next like space?
Yeah, I do think so. I was, like I said, even before opening up, I was on the fence,
Mhm,
just like Mike was talking about. Just is it how I want to practice? Is that what I'm looking for? And
mhm,
now having the experience I've had in the last few months, I definitely see the necessity. Just because, I mean, I
mhm.
can't tell you how many people I've even just referred out for imaging just to get an idea of what's going on, really see things. And I feel like it helps. I mean, I love the nervous system scans and really getting an objective view of how the nervous system's functioning. But I think too structurally, it's really cool to see like, where, it just helps find subluxation and really kind of rule out some things as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
so definitely something that I would like, and I definitely think it helps as well, and like the report of findings aspect too, where people can actually see their spine and see what's going on. Because when I'm showing them, colors on a fake spine after their X or their CLA readings, it's
Mhm.
amazing. Some people get it, but some people are just like, man, I have no idea what you're talking about, and they end up
Uh-huh.
walking. So I feel like it's a little more personal to see your spine and see what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I love the convenience of having X-ray right in my office because I get to do the day one and the day two back to back, and then it's so powerful for the patient.
Mhm.
So go ahead, Mike. What were you gonna say? I didn't mean to cut
I
you
was gonna
off.
say for the for the electrical requirements, in most cases, most X-rays require I think it's 125 amps. If you go up to a 40 kW generator, it goes up a little bit more, but a lot of times we put that into the quote, so there's no questions for the contractor as well as the electrician. So they can easily incorporate that into the room design. There's a breaker box for emergency shut off. So they handle all that when it comes to the actual installation portion of the room. Um, and then for the room size requirements, a lot of times we like to have a decent sized room. The room does, I guess the size doesn't always make a huge difference. It just depends on if you're trying to go with the standard 72 SID or the fixed 40. So it depends on the size of the room too, with what X-ray unit can actually fit in your space. And we try to always, make it as simple as possible and to be able to, fit an X-ray. And we've gone through some interesting installs to make things happen for different clients. So
Yeah, well, one of the I have a few CBP clients that are opening practices now, and that's one of the things we're working on is designing the X-ray room so that they're able to do stress X-rays or potential X-rays
yeah.
in all regions of the spine. So that's something to consider as well if you're a CBP practitioner.
Have you found that challenging trying to help them with that? Or I guess
Um,
them with that?
well, at first, so that was one of the things that I wish I had done differently in my own clinic. So my X-ray room is actually pretty large, and I can actually move my X-ray machine if I want it to be able to do that, which I think at some point we're going to do that because I think it's just that important. Um, and it's just like it's a little bit challenging just to like get all the measurements if you're going to use a dinner roll table, just to make sure that you have enough room for like the dinner roll table, and then for each region of the spine obviously you have to give like room for people's legs and head and stuff like that.
You have a setup like that, you're probably gonna need a little bit bigger size room. Um,
Most definitely.
definitely. But for most, I would say for like most practices and most, you could probably get away with like a 10 by 12 or even like an 8 by 12 room. But we can make things work, and you know, we gotta get the X-ray in there some way.
Yeah, yeah, you guys are probably the best at it because you see so many different spaces. There's
Oh
probably
yeah.
nothing you haven't seen.
And
Yeah.
I'm still learning more of that aspect of how to do a room draw, and just learning more about that, because in the practice, like I was telling you before, we didn't have in-house X-ray. We had other diagnostic imaging, so we would also refer out. Luckily we had several close places by that, you know, it wasn't an issue to get, but still there's a lot of benefits to having it in-house, and the speed, and not having to, you know, if it is a potential fracture, you know, you don't have to worry about sending them to an urgent care and things like that. So that's something that I try to, you know, talk to new students and, you know, doctors who are on the fence of, you know, wanting to purchase an x-ray and do it in-house.
Yeah, and even a big deal too, guys, is placement, like patient placement. So when you refer out, you lose control over your patient placement,
Yes, 100%.
right?
There's a lot of times you'll get images back from the imaging center, and they're crappy images, and you're over here trying to figure out what the heck you're looking at, and you're just like, you know, man, this is not what I wanted. And a lot of times, if you can do it yourself, you know, there's always that saying, it's like, if you want it done right, sometimes you got to do it yourself. So that's a big, I'm sure, you know, I've seen that plenty of times in 6 years of practice, of just having images that are not quality. And then you're like, well, we got to go send them for another image, or, you know, something weird happens like that at the x-ray center. So that's something to consider as well.
Right. So Colton, as a practitioner who's been in practice for almost a year, what other questions come to your mind for Dr. Mike?
Hmm. Well, I guess really just interested. I think what interests me always is just chiropractors' journeys. So I know you talked about how you were in Pittsburgh. You're not still in that practice, correct? Or are you
No,
still?
I'm not, I'm no longer with that practice. My wife is actually a chiropractor there as well. So my wife is a chiropractor too. And she currently works there, but
Okay,
I've left the practice.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Cool.
So you're
Yeah.
solely doing X-ray now, right?
Yeah, so I'm solely doing the x-ray stuff, and doing more of the consulting stuff for the students.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Mike, there's been in the last few years now, there's been a huge push in chiropractic schools for people to not take X-rays.
Mm.
And my feathers are getting a little bit ruffled about this. Only because, like, man, in 23 years of clinical practice, I can't tell you how many times, if it wasn't for an X-ray, they would have been, very bad consequences, right?
Mhm.
Um, in addition to just being able to provide like a higher standard or a higher level of care using an X-ray, right?
Correct.
So, you know, and a lot of people are coming out of school not even being able to take an X-ray,
Right.
never mind read an X-ray. So, how
Exactly.
do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? What would you say to somebody coming out of school that's like, I don't think I need to take X-rays.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I was taught at Palmer was, you know, obviously trying to make sure that you cover all the red flags before you start working on a patient, making sure you do a proper history exam. So for those that like are on the fence and, you know, say that, you know, I don't feel like I need to take x-rays, there's always the chance that something could be going on.
Mhm.
We've actually, at the practice I've worked at, we've had several instances where, you know, we were kind of saw some red flags initially on the intake, and we were, you know, very quick to send them out, refer them, because again, those things happen. It's the things that you're warned about in school about, you know, the triple A's and just weird stuff that everyone has. It's just a chance I don't know if you'd want to take that going out of school now. And so not to say that you can't get away with not having x-ray, but it is true. I think that there's been a shift of, you know, more so of, you know, not doing x-rays in-house. And I
Mhm.
think that's where I'm going to try to bridge the gap and just, you know, bring back the importance of x-rays and talk about it, because, you know, it is very important to be able to do that and to be able to catch those things before it happens, before you're on the fence for things. So
Right.
and on the lines of that, I'll be going to soon. I'll be heading to Palmer, Florida, and Palmer, Iowa, to actually give talks about this kind of stuff for students,
Oh, cool.
specifically along the lines of X-ray, and to kind of do what we're doing now, talk to them and just answer their questions and concerns and things like that. So in the future, I'll be probably going to a couple more schools once I kind of get it started and get the process rolling. But I have plans to go back to my alma mater and start with that. So
Beautiful. I love that. I think that's so important and such a value for students. Because one of the, we had already talked about one of the objections that people have um about bringing x-ray into their office is certainly the financing part of it.
mm,
But you know what I hear more of is more than even the money part of it. I hear people say like, oh, I don't want the responsibility or the liability of having to read an x-ray. And I'm like, oh, I was like, your liability by not reading an x-ray is like
right.
way higher.
Yeah. And for those that are kind of worried about, the liability of reading their own, I mean, you can always get a radiologist readout. I mean, that for a couple bucks, I mean,
Yeah.
that's definitely a safeguard to cover all your bases. That way you're not missing anything. And then you're also, keeping your liability low when it comes to taking your own. So those are options out there for the students that are listening, to have a full radiologist report readout. As soon as you take them, you can have them sent and they can read it pretty quickly and send it back to you. And that way you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the x-rays yourself and you're also making sure the responsibility is on the radiologist. So that's
Yeah.
something for sure. I'm sure that comes up a lot for new students thinking about that and kind of on the fence as well.
Yeah, and I did that when I was newer in practice, and even actually further into practice. If I saw something on the X-ray that looked wonky and I didn't know what it was, I would just send it to a DAC bar.
Yeah.
I
Just
think I've used Cliff Towel. He's really big
yeah.
in doing that for doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've recently followed him on some of his social stuff. So learning more of the game.
yeah,
You're
he's an
so
interesting guy.
oh yeah. So in your CBP, I guess practice, I mean, something that I'm learning more and more about, literally day by day. What are your thoughts on some of the postural analysis softwares and things like that, and how they generate reports from the X-rays? Because there's a push for AI technology in actually the line drawing and actually the documentation as well. Have you seen some of this, or have you experienced it yourself?
So we use Posture Ray.
Okay.
All right. So actually, I think Joe Ferrantelli will be there this weekend at the annual as well. So
Yeah.
he has. I mean, do you use that in? Well, that's right. You don't practice. Have you ever used Posture Ray before?
I actually was talking with Joe just recently because he was training me on the posture array, and that's where I kind of learned more about the AI and
Yeah.
how really awesome that is for anyone to have, just to show like what's going on, how quickly and the time it can save you.
Yeah, we have it. It's phenomenal and it works great on like from every aspect. It's convenient. You can actually train your CA to like plot the lines. Yeah, you train a CA to plot the lines. Obviously the doctor has to read the film. But the CA can do a lot of like the back work to speed things up. And it's just so much quicker, because I grew up in the day of like when I opened my practice, you guys, I used to have to like dunk my films.
Oh my gosh, sounds awful.
It was because it like all the fumes would burn your lungs. It was terrible.
Yeah,
Um, so compared to where I started, it's a no-brainer. Like just get the software and get it in and get it done. And then from a patient perspective, just taking that patient from, like from like a pain-based mindset or pain-based belief system into a chiropractic lifestyle belief system, it works phenomenal too because the majority of the world's population are visual learners. So like Colton said, when they're seeing it, it's just like it's an experience for them, not just this information that you give them, but it's a whole experience when they actually see what their spine and their nervous system looks like on the inside.
absolutely. And the progress as well. So pain is very subjective and it's not always a good indicator of how things are going and how your treatment plan's going as well. So that's something, you know, I've dealt with that a lot. And, you might be feeling good one day, but, you get x-rays or you get more imaging and you're just like, yeah, man, things still don't look very good and good there. So we got to change it
Yeah.
up.
Sure, like we have people that come in just to have their spine checked for subluxations and they have no pain at all.
Yeah.
And when they look at their spine, they're like, how is this possible?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. So. All right, man. Well, we are at our half-hour mark. Colton, did you have any other questions for Dr. Mike?
No questions, just gratitude. Thanks, Dr. Mike, for coming on and just sharing your expertise. I know I took a lot away from this, and as I get ready to expand and move clinics here in the next year or so, we definitely have to have one-on-one talk. Sure.
Yeah, sure. So if you need anything, any help in the future with any X-ray stuff, just I'll get you my information. Let me know. But it's been a pleasure to, talk with you guys and kind of shed some light on X-ray world, and hopefully some of the students out there can take some knowledge as well. And if they ever need anything, you just
Yeah. Speaking of your information, can you can you share a little bit on where the students out there, young docs, can find you, whether it's social or best way to contact you if they want to get.
Absolutely. So they can look me up. I'm on Facebook, just Mike Pezzone, Pezzone. And then my email for my imaging is mikep@mavenimaging.com. So they can shoot me an email, but I'm on social media, so they can send me a message and I can get back to them. And I've been in with a lot of the new groups and stuff like that as well. So my name will start popping around here shortly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any questions or any concerns anyone has, like I'd be welcome and free to help them out as best I can.
Cool.
Excellent. Dr. Mike, thanks for being on our podcast today and providing just a ton of value for our students. That's awesome.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll get to see you in just a couple of days. So we get to talk more and collaborate on some other things as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see you in 2 days.
Awesome.
All right. All right, everybody. Colton and I'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys. Nice to meet you all.